At the beginning of the Ultimatum 3, two couples dipped out in the middle of the night. One of them being Micah and Chanel, and the other being Vanessa and Dave. Micah and Chanel decided not to come to the reunion. And personally, I don't think that's a big of a deal. I'm not sure what they would have to offer other than, saying why they left the experiment, but I think it's a bit obvious. But it would have been nice to get some kind of clarity on who left first, because there were so many rumors about who left first, whether it was Vanessa first or whether it was Micah first. It would have been great to get that clarity, maybe a statement. But honestly, truly, I'm not surprised that they didn't show up. And you know what? Good for them. Good for them. I think they realized how embarrassing this show is and have decided to just distance themselves from this brand. So you know what? Good for them. Good for them. I think most people probably would have benefited from doing the same coming on this show. But Vanessa and Dave, they came back to say their piece. I'm not surprised about that. They've been very defensive and feel like they need to defend themselves on social media. And I was interested to hear what Vanessa had to say as the reason why she left, because it seems like it was Vanessa who left and Dave left with her. But there was some speculation in regards to why she left. Did she leave because of Dave? Because he was going around walking like a slapped ass once he realized that none of the girls wanted him and he was not going to be having this good time as a bachelor as he may have thought he was going to have. And then watching Vanessa have such a good connection with Nick, he was sick basically and wanted to leave. So people were suspecting that maybe Dave convinced her to leave, whilst other people were suspecting that maybe it was because of Nick, because of his erratic behaviour, because of his crash outs, that he basically scared Vanessa off. And Vanessa confirmed that it was the latter. Now, she had been alluding to this on her social media. I've had a few people in my comments go back and forth with me on this, basically insinuate that I'm lying, that Vanessa insinuated that it was Nick that basically scared her off because they're very delusional and romanticize Nick's abusive behaviors. Talking about, oh, I ain't seen it, show me, I haven't seen her say it. Well, now that you've launched a reunion, you can hear it out of the horse's mouth. Your man Nick is crazy and is scaring the hoes. Now, Vanessa basically said that it was bad. Nick was behaving very bad, very erratic. It was worse than what was shown on TV. He had gotten very aggressive with her. He had made her feel uncomfortable. He was pulling her away from the cameras and the mics to basically trauma dump on her, very intense trauma dumping. And she felt very uneasy, and she was just basically like, this is not going to be beneficial for me. I'm not going to be able to have a viable and fruitful trial marriage. So I'm just going to leave. And this guy's scaring me. So I'm going to leave. Dave was already ready to leave, so he left with her. And that's the story. She was also kind of alluding to the fact that, he was abusing substances. He was given that. It was giving that he was a cokehead. And she was trying to say, tell him like, yeah, you know why I left you, because you're a cokehead. That's what it was giving, because Nick then goes on to say, yeah, I was abusing alcohol, quotation marks, and coke as well. And that's why she left, and I think that's totally understandable. Nick was very defensive, basically saying, yes, I was intense, I can admit that, but you were also crying about Dave and I comforted you, but the difference is that I stayed and you left. And Nick likes to come with these false equivalences. I think Vanessa being upset and crying about Nick, being upset about the situation with Dave, even crying about it, I think makes sense. I think that's what every single member of the cast did. The difference is no one was going around pulling up to people's houses, demanding to go in, blowing up people's phones, harassing people's family members, abusing alcohol, in his own words, abusing other things most likely. Like, no one else was doing that, babe. Just you, Nick. And you were expecting Vanessa to stick around for that. Delusional. Clearly, Nick still has some things to do, but I personally think that he's a narcissist and just thinks that he is just very strange. And therefore, he just can't compute how intense he is. So yeah, Vanessa tries to communicate that to him. Sandy also chimes in. Sandy was definitely chiming in a bit too much, but I think she was trying to defend herself and be like, yeah, look, you saw it, Vanessa. You saw what I've been dealing with. I've been dealing with this crazy cokehead. You see me, you see the struggle I've been going through. I'm not crazy. So yeah, we did have Sandy chiming in. And in the end of it, Nick was kind of just like, okay, whatever you guys say, type of thing. Scotty tried to jump in there to defend Nick and be like, oh, I feel like everybody's coming for Nick at this point. And of course, an abuser's gonna defend his fellow abuser. Caleb was notably silent this time. I think maybe Caleb has realized how crazy Nick is, because before Caleb was defending him, he's seen the craziness in 4K now, and he's like, okay, maybe I spoke out of turn. But of course, Scotty's gonna defend his fellow narcissists. They also talked about why they didn't say goodbye. Vanessa basically said, I didn't know this guy. I did not owe him anything. And yeah, I was scared and I just wanted to leave. And I think that's perfectly justifiable. If this guy's crashing out and is a fucking crazy cokehead, why would I now wait for him to come home to tell him that I'm leaving him? So he can throw my suitcase at my head. Some of you guys just, like, the cognitive dissonance from some people is just very wild. And I really worry about what some of you guys think is acceptable to be dealing with in a relationship. But yeah, that's pretty much a roundup of why Vanessa left. One thing I will say is that they asked Dave if whether he was threatened by Nick and whether, that was a factor in him wanting to leave the experiment. And he was basically like, no, it wasn't a factor. Like, I wasn't checking for Nick. Like, I wasn't threatened by Nick. And Nick made this face as to be like, yeah, right. And that's like one of the rare occasions where I agree with Nick, because Dave, you are delusional. You are absolutely threatened by Nick. And you were definitely praying that Vanessa was having a horrible time with Nick. But yeah, that's Vanessa's side of the story. What do we think? Do we believe her? Do we feel like she might be exaggerating things? Do you feel like her leaving without saying goodbye is justifiable? What do we think about Nick's response to Vanessa's recollection of things? Let me know what you guys think.